All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Wedenkamp, and I am a student at Georgia Southern University. I am on the Student Government Association, and I'm a graduate assistant, and I am a member of the Sexual Assault Student Educators. Today we're presenting on It's On Us, which is a program or initiative that we're pushing forward that Joe Biden is a part of to help make everyone on college campuses around the United States realize that sexual assault and the prevention of it is on us. Today we have with us Fatima Sharad. She is the outreach officer for the Sexual Assault Student Educators, and she's also a newly trained victims advocate for the Statesboro Regional Sexual Assault Center. And then, but our presenter today is Suzanne Sherling, and she is a certified victims advocate with the Statesboro Regional Sexual Assault Center. She also works with the GSU Sexual Assault Response Team, and she is a member of the Sexual Assault Student Educators. So give a hand for Suzanne.
Thank you guys and welcome. Just again to speak about who we are. We are here as representatives, first of all, of SASSY. It's the Sexual Assault Student Educators, just happens to spell sassy, works out because I'm sassy, so it works. But it's a student organization at Georgia Southern University. We do meet every week, and you guys are invited. You don't have to be a Georgia Southern student to be a member of SASSY. There are no dues, nothing like that. But we're also here for the Statesboro Regional Sexual Assault Center, which is the community program for sexual assault prevention in not only Bullitt County. We cover the whole EGSC jurisdiction, and we take cases from up to 10 counties. So that's who we are, and that's why we're here today. And what I'm going to talk to you about today can cause a trigger. So I always give a trigger warning at the beginning of my talks. Something that we discussed today, a play that you see today, may trigger emotions in you. So I want to have available for you these numbers. For you or a friend, this is the type of speech where my feelings won't get hurt if you get up and leave. If it's too much, go ahead. You can leave. I will be worried about you, so please check in with somebody, but my feelings won't be hurt. So just letting you know that, we're dealing with sensitive material today. So, no laughing. Please don't be looking at your cell phones the whole time, all that kind of stuff, because you never know who's sitting beside you. You never know whether or not you're sitting next to a victim. And even a lack of attention can build a kind of atmosphere where people don't feel safe. You know what I mean? So I'm going to start by some definitions. We can't talk about sexual assault if we don't know what sexual assault is, right? So I'm going to start with the Georgia law on rape. According to the Georgia law, a person commits the offense of rape when he has carnal knowledge of a female forcibly and against her will. Carnal knowledge in rape occurs when there's any penetration of the female sex organ by the male sex organ. The fact that the person allegedly raped is the wife of the defendant is not a defense against the charge of rape. So that means in the state of Georgia, a male cannot be raped legally. This is problematic. It's also problematic that rape only occurs when there's penetration of the female sex organ by the male sex organ. So the other terms that we have at our use for laws in the state of Georgia, you have sexual assault, which is when someone in authority has any kind of sexual activity with someone under their authority. So a teacher and a student, a boss and an employee, a coach and an athlete, etc. They can be charged with sexual assault. Now, of course, this comes with less time and less punishment. The next thing we have is sexual battery, which is the intentional physical contact without consent, meaning touching of any of intimate parts without consent. Aggravated sexual battery is the intentional penetration without consent, and aggravated sodomy is sodomy without consent or sodomy with anyone under the age of 10. Georgia laws are problematic, I'm just saying. But these last three are what male victims have at their disposal if they've been raped. These are the only charges that can be brought against someone who rapes a male or against a female rapist. So I'm not a fan of these definitions. So the definitions I use, the Department of Justice defines sexual assault as any type of sexual contact or behavior that occurs without explicit consent of the recipient. Falling under the definition of sexual assault are sexual activities such as forced sexual intercourse, forcible sodomy, child molestation, incest, fondling, and attempted rape. So this definition is much more inclusive. It covers more. So this is the type of definition I use. But okay, so we've defined sexual assault, but pertinent to that definition is the word consent. So we need a definition for consent. Most people, like, you have a basic idea. It's one of those words you kind of know what it means, but you couldn't define it. So our Walk a Mile committee, which is Walk a Mile is a fundraiser we do every year at Georgia Southern, sat around one day and discussed for about an hour to come up with this short definition of consent, which we define as to enthusiastically and continually agree to engage in sexual activities between non-intoxicated adults while respecting boundaries. Now this definition is important because it covers all the bases. Enthusiastic. Consent should want to be given. If it's coerced, that's not consent. It's continual. Consent yesterday wasn't consent tomorrow. Consent an hour ago is not consent now. It's ongoing. Consent is not a noun, it's a verb. It's something you continually do. Non-intoxicated adults. If you're too drunk to say your own name or where you live, you're too drunk to consent to sex. Simple as that. And consent is the responsibility of the initiator. So whoever's trying to initiate the sexual activity is responsible for getting consent. Adults, obviously, a 12-year-old can't consent to sex with a 42-year-old. That's not, the mental processes are not there to make that, or if someone's mentally handicapped. And respecting boundaries. If you consent to one action, you don't consent to all actions. So that's important to understand and to realize. So now that we have some definitions, let's talk about some statistics. These are the scary statistics that live in my head on a regular basis. I put these pictures up here because I wanted y'all to know where I get my statistics. I don't just pull these from thin air. I haven't made these up. These are all respectable organizations, and they've done their studies. So I want to start off by, right off the bat, getting out the myth about false rape reports. We hear it all the time. You hear it in the news like it happens all the time. It doesn't. Sexual assault is the most underreported violent crime in America. And in fact, only 2% of sexual assaults reported are found to be, quote, unprovable or no crime. That doesn't even mean they were found false. That means there was not enough evidence to press charges. Only 2%. Now, the next closest felony in percentage is robbery at 10%. And how often when someone says they were robbed do you go, were you really? Are you sure? Did you lock your doors? That's not robbery. We don't say that, right? So why do we say it about sexual assault when it happens 5 times more often than robbery? So I wanted to go ahead and knock that myth out of the park and start with, there are 293,000 sexual assault victimizations in America every year. 293,000. To break that down, that's one sexual assault every 6 minutes. That means in the hour that you're sitting in this auditorium, 9 people will be sexually assaulted in America. To break that down even a little bit more, one of the statistics we hear the most is 1 in 4 college women. Now, the conservative number is 1 in 5 in college women, but I go with 1 in 4 because that has been found in more studies, so it's more accurate. And unfortunately, that number doesn't increase much when a woman graduates from college. Her number then only goes up to 1 in 5. Now, women are not the only victims of sexual assault. You will hear a lot of times people who work in sexual assault referring to victims as female and perpetrators as male. Yes, a large percentage of victims are female, and 98% of rapists are men. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying 98% of men are rapists, I'm saying 98% of rapists are men. But there are male victims as well, and it's a less talked about area. Our best number that you'll hear from men is 1 in 6 before the age of 18. And that's because men are more likely to report sexual assault as a child or past sexual assault as a child than they are when they hit 18. Some of the other numbers I've seen for men after they graduate is 1 in 16 men in college, 1 in 36 men in their lifetime. But even those studies say, these numbers are not accurate, and we can't find accurate numbers for men just because men don't report. To make it a little personal, in the state of Georgia, right? You remember the definition I gave you for rape in the state of Georgia? Okay, so 1 in 5 women in the state of Georgia, according to that definition, But if we go by the Department of Justice definition, 1 in 2 women in the state of Georgia will experience sexual assault in their lifetime, and 1 in 5 men. Just let that sink in for a minute. 1 in 2 women in the state of Georgia will experience sexual assault in their lifetime. And these numbers triple when you start talking about the LGBT community. Now, 90% of their victims know their attackers. When we were growing up, you were taught to look out for stranger danger, right? Like the creepy guy in the trench coat in the bushes. That doesn't really happen. I've worked as a victims advocate for several years now, and every single case I've worked, my victim has been able to tell me their attacker's name, their address, where they worked. This was someone they knew. It was their cousin. It was their coworker. It was their friend. It's never the creepy guy in the bushes. And 80% of student sexual assaults go unreported. So think about that for a second as well, because that means all those scary numbers I just gave you probably aren't the real numbers. They're probably way lower than what the real numbers actually are, because sexual assaults go unreported. Now, you're welcome to look at any of these organizations for more statistics and more information. But now we are going to go to a little video and some skits.
One in 5 women
and 1 in 16 men
are sexually assaulted during their college career.
and most victims are assaulted by someone they know. Yes, it happens.
Sexual assault can happen anywhere.
in many forms and to anyone.
In the university system of Georgia,
We are a community.
And in this community,
It's on us.
to change the culture of sexual assault on all of our campuses.
to realize that the solution begins with us.
By stepping up and taking responsibility for ourselves and each other.
It's on us to recognize that if one does not,
Or cannot consent to sex.
It's rape.
To intervene if we see something happening.
to not look the other way.
And to stand up to those who tell us it's none of our business.
It's on us to do something.
Anything to keep an assault from happening.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
Not give our friends the pass.
And give a friend a ride home if he or she is drunk.
It's on us to take all reports of sexual assault seriously.
To ensure that the victims are supported and never blamed.
And to create an environment
Where both men and women feel and are safe.
It's on us, on all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
to be a part of a solution.
And not part of the problem.
Join us in this movement to put an end to
Sexual assault in the university system of Georgia by taking the pledge at itsonus.org.
The dramatic reenactments today are going to be brought to you by the Robert Feline Playmakers Drama Club here at East Georgia State. We're going to present 2 scenes. The first one is going to deal with the myth or the complexity of understanding, which often happens. And speaking as a male, and other males would agree, we grow up with a lot of myth, a lot of misinformation about consent and sexuality. So our first scene features Jason Hendricks and Kim Russell, and they're going to give an account of an encounter in which both have an extremely different view and a different interpretation.
I knew him, not well. I mean, I knew who he was, Tom. I had seen him at other parties, talked to him a couple of times. I remember dancing with him once and thinking, I'm hanging out with a junior. But nothing really came from it, because my roommate dragged me home. So that's why I was pretty excited when we hooked up at the house party.
I was hanging out with some of my friends at the house. It was fun. No big deal. When this girl, I think she was a freshman, comes over and says, "Remember me, Amanda?" I say, yeah, how you doing? Well, as the night goes on, we party, dance a bit, hang out, and I'm thinking, this works. So it's late, and I say to her, I really want to get to know you better, but it's hard to hear with so many people at the party, so I suggested we go downstairs.
We were trying to talk over the music, but it's pretty loud, and he tells me he wants to get to know me better, and I'm all for that. So he said, let's go downstairs where it's quieter. And I said, okay, let me tell my friend. And he said, no need to do that. He just wanted to talk to me. So we headed downstairs. Funny. My mind had been ingrained, not don't go upstairs with a guy alone, but downstairs didn't seem to bother me, which was stupid because the basement was basically a couple of bedrooms in the house, and we walked into one. As soon as we walked in and he shut the door, locked it, and took me in his arms and said, so, I was saying, I really want to get to know you better. And he pulled me forward and kissed me. Let me tell you, it was pretty hot. Though, a part of my brain was thinking, why did he lock the door?
So we get downstairs and go into the bedroom. I locked the door because I didn't want any distractions, just in case. We started kissing right away, and it was awesome. She was into it, believe me. Next thing I know, she pulls me down onto the bed.
I kissed him back, and we were kind of drunk, I guess, because we kind of lost our balance and fell against the door, making out. We were kissing and grabbing, and I tried to push myself away from the door, which just made me fall on the bed. At that point, I was into it as much as he was. It was kind of spontaneous passion, you know. He had his hands in my shirt, had pulled my bra down, and was touching me.
Maybe it was because I was drunk, or maybe just how fast it was happening. I don't know, but it was wild. I mean, I went downstairs there hoping something would happen, but this was incredible. We couldn't get enough of each other. I had her shirt practically off, and she let me. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, we're going to do it right here. So I started unsnapping her shorts.
He unsnapped my shorts, and that kind of broke the spell for me. I was up for the kissing and even being on the bed, but that was far enough. I took his hand and I pulled it away. I didn't make a big deal of it. I just didn't want to go any further, that's all.
She took my hand and moved it. I guess we were going too fast. So I waited a bit and tried again. Same thing, she grabbed my hand. But she wasn't mad or anything. I stopped trying to take her shorts off and just put my hands inside.
I moved his hand once, and he tried again. So I stopped him again. I didn't want to make a scene. I liked him. I guess a part of me was thinking, this is how it begins, and then you start dating or something. But I did know I wanted him to stop. I thought by grabbing his hand and keeping him from taking off my shorts twice, he would get the idea I didn't want him to do that. But instead of stopping, he put his hand inside my shorts and started touching me. I started to move his hand away again, but the pattern was getting old. He had kind of worn me down. And maybe it was the alcohol, but I suddenly felt just too tired to fight it. He said, I want to make you feel good. And I was thinking, I was feeling good. And if you really wanted me to feel good, then you wouldn't keep pushing me. But I didn't say anything, because I didn't know how this whole college relationship thing works, you know. And I figured we could talk about it tomorrow, or, I don't know. Regardless, I didn't say anything, not until he yanked down my shorts.
After we had been touching for a while, she seemed to relax. She didn't say anything, so I guess it was feeling good to her. I know it was for me. I really wanted to have sex with her. So now I just pushed her shorts down. Boom. She tensed up again.
It was bad enough playing the game of the guy tries something and the woman has to stop him. But this was different. This was forceful, I said. I said, maybe we should go back upstairs. Though I didn't know why I said maybe. I didn't mean maybe. I wanted to get out of there. I didn't feel his hands anymore, so I thought maybe he was stopping. But it was because he was unzipping his pants. That was when I got scared. Suddenly, I didn't know what to do.
She was tense, but I had expected that. A lot of women don't want to be upfront about sex because they don't want, to what they're thinking or that they're easy or something. So I coaxed her a bit and telling her it was going to be okay.
I felt him pull aside my underwear, hard, so hard it ripped, and all of a sudden I panicked, thinking, this is not happening. This is not actually happening. And I said, Tom, no, Tom, stop it. We need to stop it.
My body just kind of took over. I think she was a bit scared, and I wondered if maybe it was her first time, which made me stop for a second. But then I figured, not this gal, not a girl who walked downstairs with me and attacked me when I walked in the room. I think at first she seemed to want to stop, but she was just talking. She didn't seem too serious about it.
Maybe I should have screamed or tried to hit him, but I don't think my brain wanted to believe this was really happening. And then it was over. I was lying there in shock. I had started to cry, but I didn't think Tom noticed. There was a knock at the door, and Tom went.
In a minute, we were kind of busy in here. It was real easy to get dressed because we hadn't really taken our clothes off, except I had ripped Amanda's underwear. I handed it back to her. Wild, huh?
He handed me back my underwear like he was doing me a favor. I didn't know what to do with it. It was a reminder that this wasn't a dream. Then he says, maybe we should go back upstairs separately, so people... But he says it like he's trying to be sensitive.
So I headed back upstairs. Wow.
I still hadn't moved or said a word. I grabbed a pillow and put it over my head and hoped this had just been a bad dream. When the night started, I thought this would be just another party.
But what a great night.
What a horrible night.
Thank you, Kim Russell and Jason Hendricks. Our next scene is entitled Double Take. And by the way, neither of these scripts are attributed to a particular playwright or author, or I would tell you who wrote them. This one involves something that has been brought up already, very important aspect of the topic, which is the influence of alcohol in sexual behavior. So this involves 5 students, 4 students and 1 guest in our community. So would you guys come on out, please, and take your places? This scene is entitled Double Take. It's going to feature community member and actress, longtime participant in community theater, Miss Joan Dunn. She's going to play the part of the evil conscience, and her character name is Miss Perception. And then our title character is Marie. She's the one that's going to be Allie Hill. And I'm moving from your left to your right and naming the characters. And then we have Josh Peeler. He's going to play her roommate. He's attempting to be a good influence. And then we have D.K. Chappell, spoken word artist. We're honored to have him participate today. He's going to be a bad influence. He's going to be a reveler. We've all met the reveler at the party. And then finally we have Ali Anderson. He's going to be a character named Brian who is trying to put moves on the lead character. So here we go with Double Take, alcohol and peer pressure.
This is the campus. I work here, a campus where decisions need to be made in the dark and dank alleys of your self-esteem, and in the midnight of your wondering if people like you are normal. That's my job. I know it well. My name is Miss Perception. Some people call me peer pressure, or social influence, or just trying to fit in. It doesn't matter. I'll be there. as long as you invite me in. The campus is in East Georgia. The time is now. Do you see that first-year student over there? Oh, yes, I am on the case.
Hey, Marie, how's the studying going?
Okay, I've got a paper due for comp next week, trying to get a jump start.
A bunch of us are going to a party tonight. Interested?
I don't know. In the middle of the week, I've really got a lot of homework.
Brian's going to be there. You know, Brian, the one you made me follow around campus with you.
Really? I don't know.
Why don't you go? Do you think 5 years from now you're going to remember your comp paper? Do you want your picture in the yearbook to have underneath it, most likely to be a loser? Besides, no one else here is studying.
Wow, no one else here is studying.
Sure looks that way, doesn't it?
Who are you talking to?
This nice person standing here.
Okay, now you're hallucinating. I think you need a break. Want to go?
Okay.
I'll catch up with you later.
Hey, how are you? Welcome to the party.
Thanks.
Want something to drink?
Can't make a decision, hey? Should you just have a beer? Maybe you should go straight to shots.
I wasn't really planning on drinking tonight.
What do you think happens at parties? You want to be the only one not drinking? Look around you. Everyone is trashed.
Yeah, but drinking on a weeknight?
You think that's a big deal? That's nothing. Take a look. Most people here are doing a lot more than drinking.
Wow, I guess having a beer is nothing.
So, what'll it be?
Yeah, sure, I'll have a beer.
If that's what you want.
Well, I'm not getting high.
Okay, who said anything about getting high?
Hi, Marie.
Look who's here.
Hi, Brian.
You're looking great.
Thanks.
You know, maybe we should do something sometime.
Like what?
I don't know, something, you know, like just you and me. It might be fun. What do you say?
Like what? Don't you know? He said you look great. He said just you and me. Maybe you should go upstairs with him. I mean, you like him. He obviously likes you. And you don't want to miss your chance. I mean, come on, everybody's doing it.
I've got to go.
Marie, where are you going?
I can't do this. I can't party on Monday and Tuesday nights. I can't do shots or get high. I can't have random sex just because I like someone. I'm sorry, but I just can't follow the crowd.
What are you talking about? No one is asking you to.
She's asking me to.
What are you talking about? Marie, you're just like most people. How many people here are drinking?
All of them.
Really? I'm not. I just needed a break. I'm only staying an hour or so, and then back home. I can't go out on a Tuesday for 5 hours and be exhausted and hung over the next day. Take a look. A lot of people aren't drinking here.
That's because they're probably getting high.
You know, some parties have a couple of people getting high, but they go outside. You know why? Because most of us are looking at them like, get a life. And who, might I ask, were you going to have sex with?
Brian. If I don't, he won't like me. I don't want to be the only prude on campus.
Wow. Are you sure? Because that doesn't sound at all like Brian. And if it's true, why would you want to have a relationship with someone whose operating plan was have sex first, ask questions later? Where's all this pressure coming from?
From her.
No, Marie, the pressure is coming from you. Marie, don't let other people manipulate you, and don't manipulate yourself. So, are you going home?
Maybe I'll stay, just for a little while. I want to talk to Brian.
I'll see you later.
And so, another night ends. Perhaps I wasn't successful this time, but this is a campus, and I'll have other opportunities lurking, waiting for the right person to fall for the trap. Because if you aren't looking hard enough and you don't trust yourself, well then you might as well trust me, because I wouldn't lie to you, now would I?
Let's give him a hand. Thank you, Joan, Allie, Josh, DK, and Ali. Thank you very much.
All right, so I think those skits showed us a lot of important things. The first one with, I can't remember his name, Joe and Sarah, whatever. I think there were some vital, important aspects from that. We got to see the experience from different sides. And obviously, you know, Joe, whatever his name was, didn't think that he didn't set out to rape this girl. He didn't think he was raping this girl. And so that's the biggest thing we do in our education is we don't focus on teaching people how not to get raped. We focus on teaching people how not to rape. Like the biggest thing, we do a program at Georgia Southern every year called Sex Signals for our freshmen. And I work it every year, and I swear someone will come up to me and, oh, I don't need this class, I know not to rape people, et cetera, et cetera. But then once they sit through the class or once they sit through a program like this and they realize no one's ever told them that if someone's too drunk to say their name, they can't consent. They don't realize that what that's doing is sexual assault. So I think that was very important on that first skit. And the second one kind of reminded me of the second thing we try to fight in our programs, which is rape culture in America. The way people think. Oh, she came downstairs with me, she must want it. Oh, she's at this party on a Monday, she must want it. Oh, she's drinking, she must want it. I deal with this with every victim I deal with at the Sexual Assault Center. The very first thing they do is blame themselves. And so my first hurdle is to convince these victims that it was not their fault. I tell them all the time, you could be standing naked in the middle of the road and still not be asking for it. There's nothing you can do to deserve to be raped. Unless you say you want sex, if someone has sex with you and you don't want it, that's rape, period. So that's something that we have to fight in our society and something we have to deal with. And honestly, I think our biggest distraction. Now that we've talked about it, we need to talk about how to get help. If you or someone you know, which chances are there is someone you know. Think about the numbers again, 1 in 4 across the nation, 1 in 2 in the state of Georgia. So chances are you know someone who's been through this. And most victims don't report. Most victims won't tell anybody for 2 years. And then the first person they tell is their best friend, so that means you. So do you know what to do if someone tells you they've been sexually assaulted? Your first step, you can call SERSAC, which is the Statesboro Regional Sexual Assault Center. It's in Statesboro. Yes, I know it's an hour away, but we can help you get a ride if you need to. You call this number, and there's an advocate on call 24 hours a day. This is one of the things I do as a victim's advocate is I man the hotline. If you just want to talk, if you want to press charges, if you want to help your friend get a rape exam, we can go from there. From there, we can meet you at the Teal House, which is in Statesboro, and there will be the victim's advocate, which can be as involved as much or as little as you want. I've, held girls' hands during exams. I've gone to court with them, the whole nine. But they're there for your comfort. And then there's also a trained nurse who is specifically trained in sexual assault examinations. And they can do the examination. They give you medication to prevent STIs. They give you medication to prevent getting pregnant, not to end a pregnancy, but to prevent getting pregnant. And they collect the evidence. Now, all of this is done free of charge. The medicine is free of charge. Everything is free of charge. One thing that most victims don't know is that in Georgia, especially in Bullitt County, you have 12 months to decide whether or not you want to press charges. So you can have the rape kit done that night, collect the evidence while you can, and you can think about it for 12 months. I make sure to tell my victims that because the most important thing is the victims just lost their control. Someone has just taken their control from them in the most vile way possible. And I'm not going to make any more decisions for them, and neither is our nurses. That's what the advocate is there for. I'm there to make sure the nurses or the cops don't pressure them or give them misinformation. Not that they would. I've had good experiences, but just in case. Now, I've been told for here in Swainsboro that Emmanuel Medical Center can provide rape kits, which is good. In Statesboro, you can't go to the local hospital. You can't go to the local urgent cares or doctors or anything. They have a SANE. I think there's only one SANE up here, so there could be some timing issues with that. And then also there may be some charges from the hospital in the ER. That's why I say go ahead and come on to Statesboro. It's an hour's drive, but then everything you get is for free. And you know we're on call 24/7. And then the way you deal with it here at East Georgia, because you can file a report legally, or you can file a report with the school, or do both. And people, for different reasons, choose different ways. For example, when you file a report with the school, the level that they're required to be able to provide evidence is lower than legally. So sometimes it's easier to get something done through the school than legally, but then the school can't send someone to jail. All the school can do, is here on the school campus. So there are decisions to be made, and these are things we explain to our victims when they come. But if you have any questions, if you want to report, if your friend wants to report, you go to Miss Tracy or Miss Vicky, and they can help you out. And this is also the website. Now, Miss Tracy has told me that there are new protocols rolling out the 1st of July, so be on the lookout for some emails. I know at Georgia Southern, we just started a new protocol. They quit doing rape kits on campus in August, and our student organization actually got really involved because there was no protocol in place. They were turning away people, so we worked with health services, and they came up with this new protocol that they have for students. So student voices matter. So if y'all have questions, y'all have concerns, speak to Miss Tracy. And I wanted to give y'all some other resources. These web pages, RAIN, for example, which is the Rape and Incest National Network, they not only have a 24-hour hotline, you can go onto their webpage and you can actually speak with a certified counselor for free. They teach you how to delete the cookies and stuff as well if you don't want someone seeing it on your computer. That's 24 hours a day. It sometimes takes, 15, 20 minutes to get a counselor to you, but you can speak to them free of charge, 24 hours a day. It's on Us, of course, is the program we're doing today. They have a webpage, they have a Facebook, they have a little pledge that you sign that basically you say, I'm taking responsibility for sexual assault around me. I'm going to step up when I see it. The National Sexual Violence Resource Center is also good for statistics and information. Then, of course, we have our local information, the SERSAC webpage, and also if you want to see a counselor, we have a psych clinic on campus at GSU that's open to the public, and it's income-based, so most students pay $5 a visit, which is really good. So if you know someone maybe who's been sexually assaulted and hasn't talked to anyone, you can point them in that direction, and of course you can find us on social media. So I'm going to open it now to questions. If anyone has any questions or comments that they would, yes ma'am.
I have 2 questions.
Yes ma'am.
Because we have a lot of adult and ready students. What is the legal age of consent?
That's tricky. Georgia law is problematic. There's a Romeo and Juliet type law. That's what they call it in the state of Georgia. So a 16-year-old can legally consent to sex with a 17 or 18-year-old, but nothing above. It's this whole, you have to look it up. I don't have the specifics here, but there's also some loopholes. I know, I haven't checked it recently, but in the state of Georgia, you could get married without parental consent if the wife was pregnant. So a rapist could marry their 12-year-old and it would become legal. Thankfully, in '93, we added the clause that, marriage is not a defense for rape. And we're one of only 23 states in America that has that. So in the other 27 states, if your husband rapes you, you can't report. So there's that. But consent, like you saw the aggravated sodomy, it's okay if they're 11. That's problematic. So.
And then my second question, and again, it's probably tricky.
Yes.
Legal jurisdiction, campus police or Emmanuel County?
Now, I know how it works at Georgia Southern. I'm not sure here. At Georgia Southern, if a rape occurs on campus, they can call UPD, but UPD would still refer them to SERSAC. And it would still go through Bullock County jurisdiction. It would still go to court in Bullock County. But if it happens off campus, I don't think they can call university police. Yes, ma'am. If it happens on campus, to my knowledge, if it works like Georgia Southern, then it would go through, like, school police may respond, but it would go through the county for pressing charges. Any other questions, comments? Really, guys? No questions? Okay. Well, thank you guys for having us, and let us know if you need anything.
I just want to briefly say thank you to Ms. Suzanne Sherling and her colleagues from the Sexual Assault Student Educators at Georgia Southern University, and Ms. Christy Perry and her staff at the Statesville Sexual Assault Center for providing the presentation today, and Mr. Ron Ellison and his group for their dramatic works. Thank you for coming.